it's just, there's something beautiful about like taking off at a race at 5 a.m. and running through these temples. And that's what you do. You're like running through the temple.
Welcome to Jump Podcast. I'm your host, Traveling Jackie, and I'm here to explore travel, adventure, and lifestyle in ways meant to motivate you to move and get out and see the world. Let this show be a source of travel advice and inspiration, but remember that in the end, it's you who takes the leap. Hey guys, we're back to finish what we started in the last episode, which is, of course, where to go and when, second half of the year edition. I reintroduced you to Sherry Ott in the last episode. She's been on the show before, but more importantly, she's traveled so freaking much and has so much insight into off the beaten path destinations for each month of the year, which she recently beautifully designed and organized into an ebook called Where to Go and When that you can download for free at her website, ottsworld.com. And we're going through all of the destinations mentioned right here on the show. So if you haven't caught the last episode yet, episode 136, check that out for January through June destination inspiration. And today we're getting into July through December destination ideas, ending with a very exciting New Year's idea for the active travelers out there. So once again, as I did in the last episode, I'm going to throw in my 2 cents here and there about destinations I've experienced in these months throughout our conversation. So get ready for another epic ride because today we are continuing our whirlwind adventure across the globe. There's something for everyone, starting in places in our own backyards, like gems to be found in Minnesota and Ohio, and all the way to the Russian Arctic. And so many places in between. So strap in, put on your dreaming goggles. Let's go. Today's episode is supported by Manta Sleep at mantasleep.com. This is a company who believes that having quality sleep is the foundation for everything good that happens in life. Manta Sleep has innovated several different kinds of sleep masks, and these are designed for blackout because they have soft cups that go over your eyes and they're adjustable for custom fit to your face. And because of the design, the masks do not press on your eyes at all. They're made with durable anti-stretch elastics and snag-free material, and they have some brilliant designs, including cool and warm masks. The cool mask has soft, gentle, moldable material that evenly distributes cooling to soothe eyes and sinuses, and the warm mask alleviates stress and dry eyes and is powered by 100% natural steam for relief in as little as 3 to 5 minutes. You can use code JUMP10 to save 10% on sleep masks and other sleep accessories at mantasleep.com. And that's MANTA, mantasleep.com. It's only been 2 days since we last talked, and I've been looking forward to this for 2 days. Just like, let's not wait. I want to finish it now.
I want to continue. I love it. It's fun for me.
Yeah, I think, I'm just hoping that it's as fun for everybody else as it is fun for us, because I feel like we get to geek out together over this. And it's like something we're just not being able to do right now very much, you know? So I appreciate the energy. So Sherry, welcome back already. We have an exciting conversation to finish today. So, let's
see. We left us in July.
We left in July. I know. And you know what's funny?
Now.
We are in July. Yeah.
This is what we should be doing now.
Instead of, let's not talk about that. Instead of everything else. Hopefully next year.
Okay. So picking up where we left off.
Let's remind everybody real quick what we're doing July through December, and we have 3 topics topics.
Trips.
3 types of trip for every month. And this is coming out of your Where to Go and When ebook that you guys can download for free at ottsworld.com. So we have an epic, an international, and a US-based trip. So, okay, July, go.
Okay, July, epic. So there's an island that very, very few people know of called Wrangel Island. And very few people go. It's actually a UNESCO World Nature Heritage Site, and it sits above the Arctic Circle, above Russia, and it is actually a Russian island.
Wow.
So there is a small ship expedition cruise that you can take, basically from the Far East Siberia, the Far East part of Russia, and you leave from there, and you actually, cruise up through the Bering Strait on the Russian side, which is really interesting.
Did you see Sarah Palin's house? Sorry.
Well, it is technically, I did see Russia and America at the same time, only 3 miles apart. And that only happens in the Bering Strait at the, what is it? I can't think of the islands now. I want to say that it's not the Dolomites. It's the, Sherry, it's too early in the morning, clearly.
It's morning and you haven't traveled in like 3 months, so we're kind of out of, it's okay.
We'll forgive you. I know. I've been to many places. I'm going to look it up now, Bering Strait Islands. And anyway, there are 2 islands there too. One is Russian, one is American.
Okay.
The Diomedes. It's called Big Diomede and Little Diomede. Big Diomede is Russia. Little Diomede, I think, is America. So anyway, you sail in this Russian small expedition ship, and you go through the Bering Strait all the way up around the north part of Russia, of the continent, and then head up to Wrangel Island, which is all above the Arctic Circle. Obviously, you can only do this in like July and August because that's when the ice is gone enough. And sometimes you may, if you go early enough, if you do go in July, the chances are you will catch ice. But the ship is built for that. That's all fine.
Ooh, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's like Antarctica. It's like a trip to Antarctica. And one of the big reasons why you want to do this, besides the fact that no one goes there, the wildlife there is amazing. It used to be called like the polar bear den capital of the world or something like that.
Wow.
This is a place to see polar bears for sure. But also it was the island that was the home to the last woolly mammoth to ever walk the earth. And you will see some like tusks and stuff like that laying around. I mean, there's not a tree in sight. It's all tundra. And we basically went around the whole island. If you are a birder, if you like birds, I'm not, let me preface this, I'm not a birder at all.
Why not? It's the most amazing. I love it. I'm a birder and proud of it.
I know. Well, Carly's trying to get me into it. But
that's because I got her into it.
I know. I appreciate the birds here. They are so amazing. Have you ever seen bird cliffs, like real densely populated bird cliffs?
Yeah.
It is.
Like nesting grounds?
Yeah. But this is like on this trip, this was the most birds I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was it was disturbing how many birds there were. And you felt small. You just felt small. You're like, oh my God, there's this whole life up here that, that humans really aren't a part of at all. It's it's just a great feeling. So really great for wildlife. You can also go trekking on the island, obviously. So also, if you're kind of a nerd like I am about the Cold War, it's fascinating because, you are in this part of, going up through the Bering Strait on that side in Russia. It's actually a little bit depressing. There's all kinds of waste left there from the Cold War, but there used to be military bases there for them. Everyone's watching everyone kind of thing. Right. And it's fascinating. So you've got history, wildlife, this truly unique place that people don't get to go. It's awesome. Wow. So Wrangel Island, it's a really neat alternative to the general Arctic trips that you would take, or even Antarctica, that's a little bit cheaper than, say, going to Antarctica. You won't have penguins, but you will have polar bears.
Wow,
yeah. And it took about 14 or 15 days.
Okay.
I think.
Wow.
I was on the ship. And I also, you get there either by flying through Moscow over to Anadyr, Russia, which is on the eastern coast of Russia, or you can fly from Nome, Alaska in a little charter jet and fly over, like for 13 people, and fly over the Bering Strait, which was also like such a joy for me.
You did that? Oh yeah, you said you like little planes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I do. And this was one where like I've never taken a small plane like that to say cross continents. You know, this is one place where you can really do that.
How about Dateline?
So it was a really unique flight.
Like, whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's crazy. And the dot on this map is like so far out there. Whoa. It's like the reason you had to zoom out so much on the map is to include this little dot out there. Jeez.
That is true.
Cool.
Yeah. So the only way you're going to get out there is expedition ship, and there aren't many that do it. So there's only a few. Really, really fun if you like that kind of adventure. Let's see. This one, we have them a little bit turned around, but my USA trip in July is actually easy, and you could do this today, sort of.
This is true.
I could do this easy today. And it's Crested Butte, Colorado. So I, for the last 2 July 4ths, have spent I've spent it in Crested Butte, and it is gorgeous. I mean, it's the reason to go at this time is it's wildflower season. It is the wildflower capital of Colorado, and it is incredible. So not only do you get to do incredible high altitude hiking, you are surrounded by some of the most colorful, beautiful wildflowers you'll see in the mountains, which is really cool. And then, so they have an actual festival around the wildflowers, which is neat. They do special like photography things, photography hikes up in the mountains. They do walking tours around the town, which is a really beautiful, colorful town. And they also have an incredible 4th of July parade. Now, of course, they didn't have it this year. I hope it does obviously come back. The town of Crested Butte is a town that's at the end of the road because it runs into a mountain range. And so what you have there is a whole bunch of awesome old hippies. Honestly.
Hippies go to the end of the road. That's funny.
They do.
That's so true.
It's one of those quirky mountain towns in Colorado, and that's what makes the July 4th parade so fun. I mean, it's just out there. Every time for the last few years, I start with the pancake breakfast at the firehouse, and then you just hang out and kind of party or go fishing or go hiking, and then come back and party and see the parade or whatever. It's just it's fun. It's a great place, and you could get there now potentially.
But we need to be careful and not flood these regions that don't have a lot of infrastructure.
That is
be responsible during COVID, people.
Yes, I do know they have opened up. They were slower to open up in that region because they were hit pretty hard.
Okay.
So I know they're monitoring the people coming in. Right. But yeah. So
but in normal years, hopefully that isn't a problem. So
no, I mean, it's great. It's a beautiful, beautiful area that's just tucked away, away from I-70 and stuff like that in Colorado. So it's just not as visited as much. It's a good 4 to 4.5 hour drive from Denver.
Okay.
I would say. Yeah.
Okay.
And then my international trip in July is all centered around a festival, one of my favorite festivals in the world. It's to Mongolia, and the festival is called Nadam. And Nadam they actually call it like, what's it called? Like, it's a manly festival. Not that women can't participate, but you got to remember we're in Mongolia. So, there are 3 events that go on during this festival. It's wrestling, horse racing, and archery. And
cool.
It is incredible because there, of course, in Ulaanbaatar, which is the main city, the city that you fly into Mongolia, has a great big, it's the capital. So it has a kind of a great big pomp and circumstance Nadam festival. And I say, don't go to that one. Go to Mongolia and get out into some of the small communities. Like I happen to go in the Gobi Desert and go to a small community version of the festival because you can get way closer. It's way more like inclusive. You will learn so much more about the culture. You'll probably be the only visitor there. It's just fascinating. So I actually experienced in a small desert village, I guess I would call it, settlement. I don't know. And it was kind of a surprise. We didn't even know what was going on. And we actually changed all of our plans and we're like, we are staying and watching this. So I think now it's become more popular that some of those communities do actually offer it, or there's some tour companies that actually offer going out to smaller villages to watch. The wrestling is so cool. And it's so funny. You can see the picture on the book, what they wear.
Yeah.
And if you've been to Mongolia, normally the normal outfit of the Mongolians are these big, heavy boots, these huge, beautiful robes and like cowboy hats. I mean, they're all covered up, right? So when I got there and I saw this wrestling and they take off these robes and they have these little like pink and baby blue kind of like Speedos on and these little arrow jackets, you're like, what the heck happened?
It's like traditional Bavarian dress meets lingerie. That's what it looks like.
And these men, I tell you what, they're in shape because, and they're not going to 24-hour fitness. It's just they work hard.
This is why Sherry extended her plans to stay. Eye candy.
Yeah, it was nice I'd been in the Gobi Desert for 2 weeks already. So, but the wrestling is really cool. It's really kind of this mix between sumo wrestling, but these are not like big, giant sumo wrestlers. These are these are younger, fit Mongolians. And it's kind of like sumo wrestling and our wrestling. It's done like on the hard ground. It's fascinating. They've got all these really interesting rituals about it. They invited us to drink, it's called arag, which is fermented mare's milk. And it was just a huge celebration and all the elders got to sit under a tent. It was just beautiful to see. The horse racing is actually done by children, like 7 to 12 years old, and they ride bareback in from the desert at crazy speeds. It's just a really cool cultural experience. Plus, amazing. Stay longer. Mongolia is one of my top countries in the world. I love it. It's so fascinating there. So go to Mongolia.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
Did you have anything for July?
No, I hadn't even thought about it. I'll skip July for me. Yeah.
Okay.
July is I usually am off in July. I try not to travel in the summer. So, yeah.
Well, okay. If you do travel in the summer, go to Mongolia because it's so worth it. And you only really have a few months to go to Mongolia where it's nice. So July's a good month. Okay. August. So August Epic. I think, Jackie, you weren't obviously on this trip, but did you go to the Adventure Travel World Summit in Alaska?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, so this one comes out of that. And even though we did this in September, that was when the summit was, and I actually did it in September, you can do this in August. In fact, it's probably a better time because, as you probably know, things in Alaska really start to shut down in September for summer type activities. So
we actually went to Denali and they were closing. They actually left the lodge open just for our group that we stayed in because it was supposed to be closed by then. And that was mid-September. So if you want to hit Alaska, you gotta get there before they shut.
And August or early September is a great time to go because you don't have the problem of all the huge giant mosquitoes and stuff like that you do early in the summer. So it's just something to keep in mind. So the August Epic trip is it's called Twin Lakes Paddle, and it's a paddling, backpacking, camping trip basically to Lake Clark National Park, one of the least visited and least known national parks, but one of the most beautiful you'll ever see.
I'm so sold already just by this first picture and thinking this. Kayak camping. Oh man. Oh,
you would love it.
I want to do it.
And this is such a remote park. It's beautiful. It's huge, but no one goes because there's not a road in it. There's not a way to hike into it. The only way in is float plane. Yeah.
Scary again. Yeah. Every time. I can't help it. I'm sorry.
Okay, we got to get you over this plane thing because it will take you incredible places. I guess I hadn't really thought about all these places in my book, there is a lot of small plane flying, at least for the epic stuff.
I think people would be excited about that. I think most people would be excited about that. Some people are going to be nervous, but yeah. Oof, okay.
for good reason. But we were like a group of 8. We went with, what was it called? The Alaska Alpine Guides. They are like kick-ass, badass backcountry guides in Alaska. Sweet. And they're the ones who put on this trip, basically. It was also named like one of the National Geographic's, I don't know what, best trips ever.
Tours of a lifetime, it says here.
Yes, there we go.
Wow, tours of a lifetime.
Yeah, that's how cool this was.
Okay.
So you float plane in, and we had to bring in, we're bringing in all of our kayaks, all of our camping gear, all of our food for, what was it, like 5 days or something? There were obviously inflatable kayaks. That's how we got it in. So we had about 5 trips in with a float plane. We had 2 float planes, but 5 trips. I mean, they had to go multiple times because we had a lot of gear. Mm-hmm. So, we set up camp immediately. It was pouring rain. I'll never forget that. Setting up camp in pouring rain is always fun, but it's great. You paddle a little bit. You hike a little bit. There's these beautiful 2 lakes, and you can see in one of the pictures, it's this beautiful, like aqua blue mountains surrounding you, grizzly bears also surrounding you. Really cool. And basically what this is a pilgrimage. I call it a pilgrimage through kayaking and hiking to a cabin on Twin Lakes from Dick Prenicke's cabin. So I honestly, when I went on, didn't even know who Dick Prenicke was, but some of you may recognize the name because he was quite famous from being on a show on PBS.
Did he create his own show? He like recorded on his own, right?
Yes. Like after I learned about him, he's like the original blogger.
Yeah, right? He's a vlogger. Yeah.
He is. Because they gave him, I think it was the national park. No, I don't know who it was, but they furnished him video cameras. And this was back in like the 70s, I think. I'd have to go back and look at all this. But a long time ago.
Yeah.
And, before like we had batteries like we do today. So I have these big questions about like, how did he do this? But he filmed himself building a cabin.
Yep.
He built it all with his own hands. He was 51 years old at the time, built it by hand in the remote wilderness. And he lived there then alone for 30 years. Mm-hmm.
Yes. I've seen this documentary, and he gets like float plane deliveries like once a week, and it's but
not in winter, kind of like he's on winter. He lives off the land, but I think it's like after the first year he no longer hunts for meat. He'll fish, but he's become like friends with the animals. Like it's the coolest thing. He also has a great book out about the whole thing. So for me, because I didn't really know much about this on this trip, the trip for me was like this whole learning and educational process and a journey kind of into Dick Prenicke's wilderness. And it culminated in being able to see his cabin. And it is a national park. Gosh. So there are a couple of rangers that like live there in the summer.
Okay.
And it's fascinating.
Oh,
just
man.
So cool. Yeah.
I am so intrigued by that. I didn't know you could go there. I didn't know it was still up. And since I have seen the show, I'm so intrigued by this. I mean, this is out there. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a really good one for those people that like backcountry stuff.
Oh my gosh.
And I was not that much of a backcountry person, but I tell you what, the Alaska Alpine Guides were incredible. Like we had one guide, it was a female too, which she kicked ass, which I loved.
Yeah.
And
I always love that too.
She had it all together. I mean, I felt completely at ease the whole time.
Great.
So yeah.
Cool. That's a good one.
Okay. So USA August trip, I have Maine, which hopefully will be open again sometime. But I did I did a really awesome Maine road trip. It was in August actually. And my goal, as most of my goals in my travel, was to not do the normal places in Maine. I wanted to kind of, once again, get off the beaten track. I wanted to find hidden gems or kind of the hidden places next to the popular places kind of thing. So this was a whole, and if you like go and actually read the article, I have the whole, the exact route on Google Maps and where I stayed and all of that. But this really, the other thing about Maine is most people kind of stick to the coast. Obviously it is, it's a beautiful coastline, but I did both. I was on the coast in unusual places, and then I went inland too, which was really fun because that's the kind of stuff I like. So I did another float plane to the Northwoods, which was great. Now you could drive there. It would just be a really long drive. But in the Northwoods, that's where I first learned how to fly fish. And they have these things called sporting camps there.
Sporting camps.
They call them sporting camps. They're basically like, they come from the old history of like, wealthy New Yorkers going up there to get away.
To do sports.
Hunt. Yeah, to hunt, basically.
Yeah.
And there still is hunting there. Okay. It's legal. But there's also things like I learned how to fly fish up there. I had my own little cabin off the grid. It was gorgeous. You eat down-home food. You float plane in. You float plane out. It's beautiful. Wow. So I did that. So you get to experience the famous kind of Northwoods of Maine. And then the rest of the time I drove, and basically like instead of doing Acadia National Park, the main part of Acadia National Park, there's a little section of Acadia National Park that's just north. It's like a little peninsula, and it's separated from Acadia, but it's actually part of Acadia. And so I went up and did that part of the park because I had never been to Acadia, and I thought, well, I'm going to do a different part. So there's hiking and stuff around there, really pretty on the coast, lots of lobster rolls, obviously. And then I went inland, and I went to like a rural blueberry festival, which was awesome. They like crowned a blueberry queen. There were whoopie pie eating contests. It was just down home fun. And then I ended in like Portland and did kayaking. I surfed. You can surf in Maine. The surfing is really great in August, actually, for beginners, for like me. Just need a wetsuit. So yeah, you can experience the iconic things of Maine, but in different parts of Maine. And that's what I like.
And actually, August is an interesting idea for Maine because I think the draw is more, August is ideal because of summer, but the fall in Maine is a big deal. And when I did my road trip, it was October. It was actually like the first couple of weeks of October. Yeah. And so I would imagine that whole season of late summer into fall would be brilliant for Maine. You're going to get more rain as it gets later, but I have never had a more delicious road trip ever.
Oh, yeah.
Lobsters, the lobster rolls and the beer. I could talk about Maine beer. If I had to choose one state to drink my beer from, I would choose Maine. It is so good. Yeah, we can have that conversation if you want to.
Yeah, but yeah. Fight with Colorado, but yes.
Yeah, I know. But I don't know. I actually do prefer Maine. I know those are fighting words. But yeah. I'm a West Coaster saying that, so there you go.
Yeah, it's a great time to go. I loved it. And I stayed in B&Bs, and it's not that crowded if you are open to going to some of these different places. So, and then my August International is also a festival. This one, because this was something I experienced way before I ever became a travel writer. It was actually an accident that we came across. This is called the Palio, and it's a horse race in Siena. Have you been to it?
I have not. I've been to Siena, and I've tried to imagine this horse race in this tiny piazza, which is just amazing to me. But go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was just there. This is back when I had my old corporate job, and I had a vacation, and I went with some friends, and we went to Tuscany and got a house, and the closest town was Siena. And we had no idea that the Palio was going on. And it's like a week-long process. But the Palio is basically in the little town of Siena. There is a small campo, or not really a square, a plaza. What they do is they fill it with dirt, and it's kind of a semicircle, basically, shape. It's a weird shape. But they fill it with dirt, and for that week, they practice with the horses racing around in this little campo. And at the end of the week, they have the actual race. I think it's like 13 contradas. I can't remember how many contradas, but contradas is a neighborhood. All of Siena is broken into these neighborhoods, basically. And they each have like a symbol or a flag. Like there's the goose neighborhood. I can't remember. There's all these different ones. There's some other birds, who knows? But they then compete against each other. I'm assuming, hire good bareback riders, and that rider represents their neighborhood, and they race around the campo 3 times on bareback on a horse. And it is crazy. And whoever wins, that like neighborhood wins the cup, for the year or whatever. Oh my gosh, it was so cool and so fun. There's so much like pomp and circumstance leading up to the race, the week up to the race, that is so medieval. It's, it's all rooted in all the medieval town culture kind of thing. But the race itself is just manic. There's all this pomp and circumstance at the beginning, and the race is only 3 times around the track.
Yeah.
So it goes super fast. And I know the rule is like, it doesn't matter if your rider finishes, the horse just has to finish. Yeah. Oh, no. It's pretty, it is, it's cutthroat. It's really cutthroat.
Oh, man. Wow.
So yeah, we happened across it, and we were enthralled.
It's so funny.
By the end of the week, we had picked our neighborhoods. Yeah. We had our flags. We went and watched it. We partied afterwards. We actually ran into Al Gore at it on accident. Yeah, it was crazy.
That's so funny to me, because I don't think you could happen upon this anymore. Like that is said like it happened, 15, 20 years ago, because now you would, if you were just traveling through Tuscany, you wouldn't choose Siena that week because Airbnb prices would be through the roof, like you wouldn't just happen upon this. It's so funny, but I love that. This is the shortest horse race in the world.
Oh, cool.
At least it was at one time. I'm sure it still is. But
yeah. And cool. It's, you're right. It was at least 20 years ago when I went, I accidentally happened upon it.
Yeah.
But it's cool. Still a lot of fun. It's still going on. There's still a ton of culture involved. If you're going to be in Tuscany, you'd have to plan ahead on this one, because you're right. You really need to reserve your spot and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And be prepared. It's crowded. You can see the picture in there. Everyone is shoved into the campo. There is not a bathroom to be found in the middle there. And once you're in the middle, you can't get out of the middle because the track goes around you.
Right. So, right.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
But fun.
Okay.
We're into September. Yeah. So I also realized as I was writing this book that a lot of my trips, especially the epic ones, revolve around wildlife. And I thought I was that much of a wildlife person, but I'm just an outdoors person. And I'm fascinated with wildlife. So my September epic trip is bear watching in Canada. And I just I've tried this a number of times, but I actually just did it successfully last September, actually.
I remember your stories from this one too.
Yeah.
Cool.
Beautiful. So this is an area, it's called Bella Coola. It's in BC, Canada, and it's also called kind of the what do they call it? The gateway to the Great Bear Rainforest. So I don't know how familiar you are with the Great Bear Rainforest, but it is this spectacular, thousands and thousands of acres of, what's it called? Temperate rainforest.
Wow.
So it's a rainforest, but not in a super, we think of rainforest normally in places like Singapore and by the equator and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But temperate rainforests are cool. And it snows there, but it's still a rainforest for the amount of rainfall. And this area has been protected. It's full of very unique wildlife. It's where, if you've ever heard of the spirit bear or what do they call it? Kermode is the First Nations word for it. The Kermode bear, which is basically a white grizzly bear.
Okay.
It's really cool. Only found there in the Great Bear Rainforest.
Wow.
I was simply going because I wanted to see grizzly bears. And kind of like Alaska is a great place to see grizzly bears, so is the Great Bear Rainforest, this area of Canada. And I can guarantee you, it's much less crowded than Alaska. Most people go to Alaska, go down and there's tons of bears. That's great. But this is a little less visited and a lot of culture also involved in this. I flew in there. You can either fly in to Bella Coola. I flew in on a small plane, ferry in from, if it's Vancouver. I don't know where the ferry goes from though. Now I'm trying to remember, but the ferry comes like twice a week, and lands in Bella Coola. It's not Vancouver. I think it comes from like Vancouver Island. And then you can also drive. It's one of the few ways that you can actually drive into the Great Bear Rainforest. Now, it is not an easy drive. It's a long haul, especially like if you're going to come to Vancouver. And the road that goes out there, though, is beautiful. If you're someone that likes just cool, epic road trips, this would be fun.
Wow.
I flew in, so I didn't get to see the road, but I had heard so much about the road. They call it the Hill. And I had heard so much about the Hill that I'm like, I took one of my days, I was there for a week, and we drove up the hill so I could see what it was like. It's basically this crazy road that the government said they couldn't build, and all the locals built it themselves.
Oh, wow.
And it's harrowing.
Whoa. Yeah.
When it's dropping a whole bunch of, feet into this valley, it's, no guardrails, all,
awesome.
But they do a great job of keeping it, and it's fine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to pull a camper down it or up it, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
And then
an adventure.
Yes. And this also to know about the Great Bear Rainforest in this area, this is where you're going to find some of the most beautiful fjords, just like New Zealand, just like Norway, but here in North America.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is incredible. So one of the days I did, just regular grizzly bear watching where you go and you wait in hides and you wait for them to come on. And then I also did a float where we floated in a raft down a river. That was a little unnerving, but we did. And we saw bears and we stopped. We actually backed up and went towards them. And I'm like, oh, holy goodness.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
But they weren't interested in us. They were just eating salmon.
Yeah.
Happy. But it was neat to be in the float because you really got a whole different perspective than from a hide. So that was cool. And then we also just I went out driving with locals, into these kind of back fire roads, and we found them ourselves, too. So lots of ways to see bears there. But then I also spent a day out on a boat in the fjords. Probably, how, and I'm sure you've had these, like you have days in your travels that are like the most memorable, perfect days.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You have a handful of those. And this was one of those for me. The boat ride out on the fjords was it was just such epic scenery. The weather was changing constantly. It was beautiful. We went to a natural hot spring. We pulled up crab from the, traps and had it for lunch. We went and saw this 1,000-year-old cedar tree and gave it a hug. I mean, it was nature at its best. It was just a beautiful nature day.
I'm so sold. Wow.
Yeah. And then in addition to that, you also, if you're interested in like First Nation culture, which is prevalent around that area, they have these like thousands and thousands, I think they're upwards of 10,000 years old, petroglyphs there that are fascinating. That whole First Nations culture, and there are similarities between that and New Zealand, what they found in New Zealand, and all the petroglyphs are the same. It's just
so
cool stuff.
So
yeah.
Cool.
So
wow.
Lots of stuff to do there in addition to bear watching. I went for bear watching, but if you want to do grizzly bear watching, it's a great little hidden gem that not many people know about.
Excellent.
Yes. And I say go for a week. I went for a week, stayed in a cabin. It was so fun.
Cool. Yeah, if you're going to go all the way out there, stay.
Yeah, do it. And let's see, USA for September.
We're changing gears a little bit here.
I know, I'm sorry. But that's, had to provide a good variety. I went to Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah. Tell us why. What's in Cincinnati?
Okay. I went on a press trip, not thinking, I didn't have any huge expectations, honestly. It was a stop on a way to somewhere else. And it was also last year. And it ended up being one of my favorite cities in America that I've ever visited. Like,
wow.
It was so cool. I had so much fun there. And I was only there 3 days. So it's going to be a short trip.
Yeah.
I had no idea all the history there. It is filled with Art Deco architecture. And in fact, I was really surprised to learn that it was like the testing ground for the Empire State Building as well as the Brooklyn Bridge. So you will find two things that look very familiar there, that they built those first and then they went and built like the Empire State Building. This was like their test first kind of thing. Same with Brooklyn Bridge. So they look exactly the same practically. So I thought that was really kind of cool. The Art Deco culture is so amazing inside. They've done a really nice job of preserving all of it. Their train station is world famous for its Art Deco culture. And it's also was used as the model for the League of Justice in the Super Friends.
Okay.
A little weird trivia. If you were like me and got up on Saturday mornings and watched Super Friends, it will look familiar to you.
Okay. Funny.
Weird. But the other thing that it has is a whole bunch of really interesting culture about the Underground Railroad. You have to remember Cincinnati, the river that runs through that was the border between North and South. So if slaves could make it to Cincinnati across that river, they were free. There's a whole interesting National Underground Railroad and Freedom Center there. It's a huge museum. It's beautiful. It's right on the river. You learn so much about it. It's great.
That's so cool. That is so cool.
Yeah. It has this whole, what I liked about it, it was this division, it was like North and South, and it had both of the cultures. Like even in the restaurants and stuff that you went to, there was very, a lot of Southern roots in it. It was just really interesting in that. It's one of the biggest German populations in the, outside of Germany. Basically, They had a whole area that was all German newspapers. They called it, what did they call it? I can't think of the river in Germany now. But anyway, it was all German. And you can do these underground tours. So during Prohibition, they still made beer. They were like a forerunner in the brewing industry there, the Germans, and the Prohibition forced them literally underground. And now they found all of these old like tunnels and places where they brewed underground, and they've dug them out, and you can do tours there. It's fascinating.
Wow. Okay, so, cool.
Plenty to do there.
Yeah.
Great food, all that stuff.
They also have I believe, if I'm not wrong, I think they have the largest Oktoberfest outside of Germany.
That would make sense.
It's
totally.
Also in Cincinnati, I think. Which I imagine that would also be in September, although I don't know about that because the real Oktoberfest it ends early October. It's mostly in September. So
I don't know, but that's a good thing to check. They also have a couple really cool festivals that go on there at different times of the year. But if you want kind of that city experience, but not so crowded, this is a great kind of second city to go to, right?
Cool, yeah.
And that's what I loved about it. And it's just, there was so much history there that I had no idea, basically.
Yeah.
And then my international trip for September, you will also be familiar with, because this also came out of a Adventure Travel World Summit just last year. And that is Western Sweden. Yeah. So there I went out backcountry hiking, camping. They called it rewilding. So this idea that you get back to nature, you learn, on the trip that I took, which was really cool, you learn how to build your own fires and all this stuff, make, fika, the coffee, which is such a big part of the culture. We learned archery. We did epic hikes. It was beautiful. I mean, I'm sure you would agree. Sweden is one of the countries that really take the nature and wilderness and preserving it so seriously.
Yeah.
I was just blown away by it. Now it's interesting with the recent stuff with COVID with them, but, I believe it's a great place to go once this all ends.
I definitely second that. Yeah. I was very, very impressed. And Sweden was easy. It's very easy.
Easy.
It is a little bit more expensive, but it's easy. Like it's easy to get around. And I felt very welcomed there. I felt very at home, like immediately. It's like, okay, this is a cool place. Yeah. We're so grateful to Osprey Packs for partnering with us and supporting the podcast. So please stay tuned for more about them later on. I have an opportunity for you to join me in real life for some real travel. Here's the latest Jump Adventures update. We are going to Greece for a bike and boat island hopping adventure this May 9th to 16th, 2025, and we still have space left. Check out jumpadventures.com to learn more and book now. We're going to have a yacht all to ourselves with ensuite cabins on board, so you get to sleep in the same bed every night as we start in Athens and make our way west toward the island of Corfu. You'll have your own bike for the week, e-bike if you want one, for cycling the islands as we go, in between meals crafted by our private chef on board, and all the relaxing you want to do on the top deck under the Mediterranean sun. These bike and boat adventures are our most carefree and relaxed trips. All you have to do is say yes and show up, and there's still space. Head over to jumpadventures.com to grab your spot now, and we'll see you there.
And this was, I think if you're going to do Sweden, I mean, there are obviously cities there that are really interesting and wonderful, but if you can get out to the wilderness of Sweden, and this was in an area where I did this rewilding tour, was in Jämtland, which is kind of in the middle. It's not all the way up north, but it's not, in the south where all the bigger cities are. It's really in the middle. They have skiing there in the winter, and but I thought it was a beautiful time in September because you really had those like fall colors. It was kind of tundra-ish in a way. It was really beautiful.
Yeah. I will add to this too, that I've mentioned, I think somewhere along the show, I mentioned that I did, because you and I actually spent a day in the same place in Sweden during this trip, where I did a 10-mile run, and it was like it was part of a race that happens. And so I think that this is actually in September as well, or late August or early September is when this race actually happens. But there's like a 3-day race that they do that's just like island hopping in West Sweden. Ramsvik is where we started. I probably said that wrong, but that's where we did like a portion of this trail. And I think I mentioned this on a show a while back, maybe last October-ish. But that was so gorgeous. It was so fun to just get out with a group of runners and explore on foot these little fishing villages in West Sweden. Super cool. So I would add that to this one too. It's the race is called the West Coast Trail, or that's what it's on. It's the Ice Bug Experience is what it's called. That's
Ice Bug put it on. I remember that.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, good one.
They're doing some really cool stuff over there for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going. October.
Okay. October. So I wrote about my epic trip for October is hiking the Annapurna circuit in Nepal. And this is epic because this is it can take you anywhere from 15 to 20 some days to hike the trail, depending on how much of it you want to do. Now, I hiked this back in 2009 with my dad, actually, and he was 73 at the time. But if you want to really become one with the Himalayas, this is a great circuit trail to do. It was really popular for a long time, and then it kind of became a little bit controversial. Not controversial, but you read more about it because people are like, oh, they're building roads and it's going to ruin the trail. And they have built roads. And what that's done, I don't believe it's ruined the trail, because to me, half of this is about hiking in the Himalayas and half of it is about really immersing yourself in the Nepalese culture, the high mountain culture. So, to me, the road does not ruin the culture. And they've built trails around the roads. But what the roads also do is if you don't have a whole month or whatever, or half a month to do this complete circuit like we did, you can do it you can do portions of it in a week's time, because you can be driven up way higher. Then, we had to hike all the way up there to the town of Machame, but I think the road now goes all the way up to Machame, and that's at 10,000 feet. So we had to get up there already. Anyway, this through hike, it's not easy necessarily, but I do believe, my dad, who's 73, he did it. So I do believe anyone can do it. It just depends on how slow you want to take it. The route, the highest point, one of the things that I liked about this trail, the highest point is close to 18,000 feet, and it's the Thorong La Pass, and it comes in the middle. So basically you spend the first half of the hike, the first few weeks, whatever, or going up, all the way to get to this pass. You do this big epic pass crossing, and then it's down. You want to say down the whole rest of the way, but it's not, because there's some more up after that. But nothing as high of altitude as that. But it's a great hike, and you stay in the villages. You could camp if you want, but most people stay in tea houses. It's Nepal, so you can easily hire a porter to carry your stuff, which is great, as well as a guide. We had both a guide and a porter. And I did that because I was hiking with my dad. And I wanted to make sure we had people around who could help.
Yeah, definitely.
But you could easily get away with just doing it with a porter. You could also go with a group if you want. There's lots of companies that run this trek. So lots of ways to do it, but it is gorgeous. And it will, certainly test you on your high altitude hiking. Yeah. And you have to go slow. But it's so beautiful. The lodging and stuff like that is basic. The food is actually pretty good, but basic. And it's just, you go from walking through rice fields to, high mountain summits. Yeah. So you get a little bit of everything.
Amazing.
And so many awesome locals along the way.
I want to go to Nepal so bad. I've never been there. You haven't been? No, I've never been there. Yeah.
See, now most people go to Nepal and do the Everest base camp.
Right.
Which for me, I have zero interest in.
Yeah.
But
it's like a circus on the mountain.
That's why I think the Annapurna circuit's a really great alternative. And if you don't like the idea of the roads, it's not that you hike on the roads all the time. It's just that, it changes it a little bit, I suppose. But there's also a whole bunch of other hikes. I think there's one that goes through Nepal. Oh, what's it called? The Great Himalayan Trail. And that takes 3 months to do. Yeah. Wow. So there's some even more epic trips there that just people like you and I could do.
Yeah.
So super fun. Oh, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I have an alternative. So the October
We'll come right back to that. Let's take a moment now to thank our wonderful show sponsors. Osprey is the market leader in technical outdoor, travel, and everyday packs. And I've personally used Osprey packs since 2015. My favorites are the Fairview Trek 50 for multi-day hikes, the Cirrus 24 for day hikes, the Transporter Rolling Duffel 60, which is my trusty check luggage for faraway adventures, and of course, the countless packing cubes I use to organize everything that goes in them. We are proud to support each other on the podcast and beyond. We love getting outside, and we want to see more people outdoors. So find out more and join us at osprey.com.
National trip is really around a festival, and it is to Volksfest. Volksfest is held in Stuttgart, Germany, and it is basically what you would find at Oktoberfest in Munich, but way more local and a little smaller. And in October.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. I know you've been obviously to Oktoberfest. I haven't.
Yes. I'm a regular there. So,
Yes. Have you ever heard of Volksfest? Have you ever been to Stuttgart?
I have not been to Stuttgart yet. I've heard of Volksfest. Germany has so many amazing festivals. I once was learning about so many of them. And so that's when I heard about this one. But I kind of want to do them all because it's different there. I don't know. I really appreciate their traditional festivals. So tell us about this one.
Well, it is very much, it's, celebrating the harvest, all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And it is very much like, they've got the big tents. They've got the huge tents. Everyone's dressed up in the clothes. It's got everything that Munich has, basically. Mm-hmm. And it's just a little bit later, and it is way more local. I will say, had never been to an Oktoberfest kind of thing before. I was surprised by also like all the carnival rides and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, it's like the Minnesota State Fair for adults. Right. That's what Oktoberfest is. Yeah.
Where you get to dress up.
Exactly. And there's dress up.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So to me, this is a really fun festival to go to. Also, there's just a whole bunch of fun things to do in Stuttgart and around. Like one of my favorite tours I've ever taken was of the Mercedes factory there in Stuttgart. So fascinating. Plus, doesn't take you long to just drive down a little bit further to the Black Forest and stuff like that. So you could, easily go for a couple days to the festival, and then also explore around that area, which is, Stuttgart is certainly a big town. It's not, it's not like Berlin and Munich and those places where they are heavily touristed. So it's a little bit different look at Germany. And a lot of fun and a lot of great beer.
I'm in.
So, yeah.
I'm in. Let's go. Yeah.
And you already have a dirndl for that, I'm sure.
Know. One of these years, I'm going to actually upgrade and get like a real one. Because mine came from a department store downtown Munich, which it's still fun. I love wearing it. I love wearing that thing. But I really, like, now that I've learned so much about Oktoberfest and I've gone back so many times, I look at my own dirndl and I'm like, wow, I'm such a tourist, like I want to like elevate my Oktoberfest game. But I love this idea and I want to do this. I really, like, you just sparked this. I want to go to this one. This looks really cool. And go to the Black Forest and like, then maybe do a bike tour or something. Like I love this idea. Yes.
Well, I think we talked on the last show a little bit about, you talked about your biking in Austria along the Danube. Mm-hmm. And I told you I did this really cool Danube trip that took me, what was it? It was on the Danube, like when it started. So from its spring to the point where it gets big enough for cruise ships to go on it. I did it as a road trip, but you can also do it as a bike trip.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. They've got bike trails all through there. So lots of options once you get into that part of Germany.
Yes. So great.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
And also it's funny as I go through this, I'm like, oh, here's another drinking thing in October.
It's a theme.
Yes, apparently drinking and small planes. So in October for USA, I did Louisville, Kentucky. And this is something I did a few years ago that I organized myself, and I call it the barrel to bar way to visit Louisville, Kentucky. It is obviously Louisville is the home of bourbon and the Bourbon Trail you've probably heard of, which is all the distilleries around there and how you can drive from distillery to distillery and, get
with a sober driver, people.
Yeah.
With a DD.
Exactly. Yeah. Or going on a tour. Yeah. Like I did it through tours. What's it called? Mint Julep tours or something like that. But
cool.
Anyway, I had been to Louisville before and done it that way. I had just gone to different distilleries along the Bourbon Trail. But one of the things that I wanted to do when I put this trip together was really go beyond just, go to a distillery, do a tasting, go to a distillery, do a tasting, and get the same old kind of tour. I really wanted to go the complete cycle. So I decided I'm going to try to do everything I can. And we were only there 3 days, I think. But I started at the barrel, since that's where everything starts with bourbon. And I went to, there's a barrel factory tour you can take in Louisville. And you can see them, you see the picture here, they're being charred.
Yeah.
It is the best smelling factory floor I've ever been on.
That's so cool.
You know, white oak barrels. And so you see them putting it together. And they, even though it's a factory, these are people putting, I can't remember what the different slabs of the barrel now are called. I should remember. But putting the barrel slabs together by hand, fitting them in like a pot. It's cool.
They have a special name.
I know. And
I'm forgetting it too. Oh, man. It's a really cool art, though. It's like a very, very specific thing. Dang, both of us are forgetting this word.
Yeah. So it was really cool to see how they put it together, to see, you know, the wood come in. You go through the whole process all the way to the charring. So I started with that type of, you know, barrel cooperage tour. And then I went and did a day out on the distillery or on the bourbon trail, visited a few distilleries, learned about the whole process, and then came back into Louisville and did a bottling process. So you learned how to bottle. There's a bourbon distillery there that will actually let you bottle your own, which was fun. And so you learn about that process, and you actually get to, of course, take the bottle home, which is a nice bonus.
Yeah, and of course.
Then we finished with a mixology course on how to do, you know, mixed drinks with bourbon. And it was just a super fun way. You know, you see all farm to table stuff, and this is barrel to bar. And it's a nice 3-day trip in Louisville if you want to get away.
Yeah.
Also, and October's a great go.
Okay.
Because of the beautiful fall.
I was going to say, you just said it, by the way. Cooper. They're Coopers, aren't they? Or like
not the slabs.
No, the slabs themselves. I was thinking the people, like the people who build the barrels. Okay, never mind. We were thinking about. I was like, oh, that was it. You just said it. Like, okay, never mind. All right.
Oh, but you did. Yeah, the whole factory is called like a cooperage.
Yeah, right.
The people making them are called Coopers. Absolutely.
Right. Okay, that's the word I was looking for, and then you said it. I was like, well, okay. Anyway. Okay, before we get away from October, and actually I just said something that kind of sparked another idea for me that I should have said in September. So while we're still in the late fall, I'm going to add a couple more here. In September, was it just last year? Oh, it feels like forever ago. I did a biking tour through the Swiss Alps, and that was absolutely amazing. I would recommend that because it's a completely, it's a different way to see Switzerland. We rode from southern Switzerland to northern, like from border to border, basically, through a valley through the Alps, which was absolutely incredible. And I do have a podcast about that. So most of these guys have heard about that because that was one I did with Carly. We talked about that on the show.
I watched that and wanted to do it so badly.
Yeah, that's I highly recommend that trip. So that I would say I would say that's an epic probably, or an international. It's both. And the other thing that kind of slipped out of my mouth that I thought, oh, that's a really good idea is the Minnesota State Fair, you guys, US based. Right. It's so fun. It's really cool. Like it's actually worth going. I mean, I say that as if Minnesota's not worth visiting, but it is. It really is. And if you go at the Minnesota State Fair, it's so fun. You can get all this different food like on a stick. That's what they're like super proud of. There are different concerts at night. It lasts for a few days, I think.
Yeah.
A few days?
It lasts for weeks.
Thank you.
2 weeks.
I think I was there for a few days. I'm getting it confused.
So I'm curious about that because I used to live in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious what for you makes the Minnesota State Fair so great as opposed to all the other state fairs?
You know what? I will tell you. And actually, that's a really good question because people all over the country might be like, what is she talking about right now? I will say I think it's because of where I'm from and what I know to be a state fair, which is like nothing. It's like nothing compared to when I went to the Minnesota State Fair. It was like big and there are like lots to see. There are rides. Like it's kind of like I just said, it's like Oktoberfest without the beer. It was really impressive to me. Maybe that's normal in the East and maybe that's normal in the Midwest. Maybe it is. We don't really have that, at least in the states I've lived in the West. I have not experienced that. And so major disclaimer, it could just be a personal experience that like I was impressed with. And it's just funny. Like you can get walleye on a stick, like or spaghetti and meatballs on a stick. Like who does that? Minnesota does that. So, that's why I liked it. I thought it was really fun. And for the musical thing. Awesome. And also I want to add this. If you guys are passing through Minnesota and you have time, go to the Mall of America and do the flyover. Did you do that, Sherry?
No. Huh?
Oh my gosh. They have a thing called Flyover America and it's like a motion theater, but it's like motion theater a la, 21st century. It's really cool. Yeah. And it's like a gorgeous, I'm sure they did it with like drones but they take you all over the United States and
that's cool.
It's worth it. And so and you can get the light rail from MSP, from the airport straight to the Mall of America where they have a really fun theme park and it's in the theme park.
That's really good to know.
Yeah, two fun randos. I go to
Minnesota a lot because I fly in there to see my sister who lives on the western side of Wisconsin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, cool.
Okay, so those were both things that I did in September. For October, though, I was thinking last year I also did with my girlfriends, and this was actually a podcast episode as well, but we spent almost a week hiking on the Via Dinarica, which is a long distance trail that connects the Balkans. And we were in Bosnia. We chose Bosnia we did a section of the White Trail, and that was actually in early October. I think we started late September and we did it for about a week. And so we went into October and we didn't hit rain until the last day. So I would say like late fall is the time to do this, depending on which part of the trail you do, because if you do the whole thing, you could do it in like 2 months. But we just did this one section in a week and it was absolutely gorgeous. We didn't see a soul on the trail for the 4 or 5 days that we were hiking. No other hikers. And it was awesome. At one point we got to this viewpoint that felt like we were standing over Yosemite and we were by ourselves. There was no one around. It's like amazing. And so the Balkans, absolutely a hot spot, I would say, in that season is a perfect time to go there. They've got harvest, they've got festivals, they've got trails, they've got the sea stays warm, so if you're going to be on the coast, it's like the perfect time to visit the Adriatic, which is why I scheduled my Croatia trip, but bike and boat trip for that season. It's perfect. Nice. Yeah.
Nice. That's an area I have not been to either.
Oh man. Oh so my really goodness. Cool.
I know.
I can't believe it.
I'm really weak in that part of the world, I would say.
Wow. It's one of my favorite corners of the entire planet. All right. Well, I think we're about to change seasons here. So let's go into November.
November. We're getting cooler.
We're getting close too. We're almost done.
No. Oh my gosh. We are.
November.
Okay, so November epic trip. More wildlife. But this is, you mentioned this at the beginning of the first show that we talked about. Churchill.
Yep.
Manitoba. Churchill, Manitoba, which is Canada. And this is really about polar bears.
Goodness, this picture.
Yeah. So, I know we talked about Wrangell Island in July, and I said, yes, you can see polar bears there. That's a little obviously harder to get to. It's above the Arctic Circle.
And Churchill, wow.
Yeah, Churchill is something that if you want to see polar bears and you want to be pretty much guaranteed to see polar bears, this is the place to go. Mm-hmm. And you can actually get there much easier. But it is an epic trip because you're still going pretty far north. It's an area where there's no roads that go into it that connect it. You normally have to do a charter flight up there with a tour company. So it is a big plane, but it is chartered specifically for your tour. Mm-hmm. One of the coolest things that they have there is what's in this picture, and that's the tundra buggies. So they had a guy
Tundra
from
buggies.
Churchill, that designed or invented these Tundra buggies. And these are like, I think how I'm going to describe them is, imagine a school bus that has a pickup trailer in the back that has like, gosh, it must be like 6 foot tall wheels, major wheels, big, wide wheels. Because what this does is it drives on the tundra, and the tundra is very soft and squishy and also needs to be protective. So it's the wheels are really wide, so it doesn't make as much of a damage to the tundra. Plus it can get through all the bumpy tundra. And the idea then is that you can view polar bears from this vehicle, and you can see on the picture, people go out to the back where that like pickup trailer bed is in a way. And the bears like will come right up to the vehicle. It's so crazy.
This one is standing on its hind legs with its paws up on the bumper, like full extension bear, like trying to check out the people. So cool.
Yeah. It is the coolest thing. It's like you have gone into their environment. They're used to the tundra buggies because, they do have a lot of them around there, and they're not scared by them. So you often run across them, and the drivers are excellent. It's like a safari driver in Africa where they're just really good at knowing the patterns of the animals and how to like drive ahead and have the animals come to you, which is also kind of fascinating stuff if you ask me. The other cool thing about the tundra buggy is, it's cold up there in November, but when you go back inside of the little bus section, there's an actual like stove in there, like wood stove. No, I'm not kidding.
That's so awesome.
So you like, it is awesome. So cool. You can stay warm by the stove, and it's so cool. You actually go out for the whole day. And you have lunch in there.
Oh, wow.
You view bears. I saw these epic battles of bears fighting where they were practicing. They're not really necessarily mad at each other, but they're fighting because they're practicing, because they're getting ready for the ice to come back to Hudson Bay. That's why the bears, I should probably say, that's why the bears are here. The bears have all come ashore in the summer because the ice has disappeared, right? So they come ashore in these areas and they roam these areas. Well, once it gets to be late October, November, they all instinctually start coming back to the shores of Hudson Bay. And that's where this is. Churchill is right on the shore of Hudson Bay. Yeah. And they come back to Hudson Bay and wait. And now it's a waiting game for them because they're waiting for the ice to come back, strong enough so that they can get out on the bay and start hunting for seals. Cool. So when you see them at this time of year, they're hungry. They're hungry. Ready to get back out and get out hunting for seals because they probably haven't eaten well for a couple of months. And they're practicing fighting. Now, we also even saw, because some of them are so hungry, they are known to actually, maybe the males are known to hunt the cubs at times if they get hungry enough. Yeah. And we saw, I didn't see that. We saw the hunt going on, which was really freaky, but obviously we didn't see anyone getting taken. And then, so it's this interesting thing between the mothers and the cubs and the males, and everyone's just waiting for ice to form. It's just this cool Mother Nature time.
Where you feel like you're in the middle of National Geographic. I love that feeling.
They've also, there's, I think it's Frontiers North is who I went with, was the company I went with. There's a couple of bigger companies that just run these tours, but Frontiers North also has a tundra buggy hotel out on the tundra. So
of course they do.
Also, they like line them up like a train, a bunch of them together, but they've all been customized. So you can walk through them, and then you have like little bunk beds. You have a bunk tundra buggy. So you can actually stay overnight out on the tundra and one, most likely see aurora, which is pretty freaking awesome. And two, you get to watch the bears at night. Like they'll come up to the buggy, or they'll, it's just it's cool stuff. Or you can get up on top of the buggies, I think, and watch and see the aurora and all that. So very epic trip.
Okay. Sounds epic. Sounds absolutely epic. Yeah.
And as a side note for me, I was up there as much for the bears and that as I was for understanding the culture of a town like Churchill, that is cut off from the rest of the world, that is surrounded by polar bears in October and November. It is fascinating. I was actually there for Halloween. It's one of the coolest places to be for Halloween. They set up a perimeter around the town and they let the children go out trick-or-treating, which normally you wouldn't let the children out at night like that because bears can wander into the town at this time of in October and November and have. And so they set up this whole volunteer perimeter around the town. They set up, they put up helicopters, make sure it's clear, and they let the children go out and trick or treat. It's just a really neat, remote community.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Cool.
So neat place to be at that time of year. And you will see polar bears. I know you will.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay. November, USA. I chose New Orleans because I think New Orleans is one of the coolest cities that we have by far. And unlike going in like February when it's super busy, obviously, I went in November and I think it's a really great time to go. I mean, any time can be a good time to go, but it's a little cooler in November. You don't have the crowds of Mardi Gras. You can do all kinds of stuff there. I have an article written about how to get off the beaten path there because as much as, the French Quarter is interesting to me, there is so much more to do. And the last time I was there, this is a mutual friend of ours, Tammy. You know Tammy?
Yes.
I actually stayed with her, but she lives there. And, when you can go out with a local, and especially a local like her that's so into the music scene, it was awesome. We did this thing she called them going to destination bars. And these were bars that you wouldn't normally go to unless you had a specific reason to go like listen to a specific band because they weren't in the French Quarter. They weren't even anywhere near downtown. Like some of them we had to Uber a ways to get to them, but such a cool local community feel.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool area to go to. And if you are interested in New Orleans or you have a trip planned there sometime, definitely click on the read it icon and read more about how to get off the beaten path because I have some really cool ideas. I've been there a lot and I have ways to get you out into places you've never probably seen in New Orleans.
Excellent. I've never been there. I've never been to New Orleans. Nope. I know.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I have so much actually most of the South I haven't been in the United States. So
this is one of these places in the actual, continental US, that when I go there, I feel like I am in another country.
That is the coolest.
It's just such a different culture. That Cajun culture is so different than anything we have. And the people there that you meet, they know they're different from anyone in America. It's just, it's really cool. So I think you'd like it.
I'm sure I would.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
My last one for November is our international trip. This is also one that came out of Adventure Travel World Summit. And that is Northern Argentina and Chile.
Yeah.
So I know you'll have a lot to say about this. But, obviously it's funny because when I was putting the book together, I too have spent a lot of time in Patagonia. But my goal was to really get people, thinking about different places in those countries. So I didn't actually want to put Patagonia down. It's beautiful. It's lovely.
Yep.
But this was a cool alternative to it. And actually one of the things that I loved about this area is like Northern Argentina, Chile. It doesn't have a name. Like, Patagonia is basically Southern Argentina and Chile.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we need to have a name for this area because it's just as beautiful and cool. It's in a different way, but it really is a region that spans both countries that is very similar. So, we were up in Salta for the conference and, we went out to, trying to remember the name of it, but outside of Salta, which is in Argentina, which is a cool place in itself to go in Argentina. You can get out there and you'll get out to these deserts and salt flats and just landscapes that you didn't even know existed. Super high desert, like 10,000 feet, 9,000 feet, that are beautiful. And that's where we went. I have never seen, I don't know about you, but once I got out into those areas of northern Argentina, I had never seen landscapes like that before. These were things that like, wow, I hadn't seen in the world before. And it was like you were on Mars most of the time. Beautiful hiking. You can see flamingos there too. And then after I went through northern Argentina, I took the bus and rode over to Chile, which took a day, to the Atacama Desert.
Wait, and then how did we not do this together? So did I.
I don't know. You did?
Oh yeah, I got the most I got so sick on that drive.
Oh, you're kidding.
Over Paso de Jama? Yeah. Because it just like winds up that canyon straight up to like, I think you go from 8 to like 13,000 feet and then back down to 8. Yeah. And I was so sick. Oh my gosh.
Really?
Yeah.
There were a lot.
Man, we did that right after. Weird. We must have
left. Well, I think right after the conference was over, me and another friend went and we did one more two more days in the Salta region.
Okay, that was
to go. We did some wineries there too, because you got beautiful wineries there.
That's amazing.
And we did the Rainbow Desert, Rainbow Hills.
Okay,
we did a few different things there,
and
can't even remember, but beautiful landscapes. And then we hopped on the bus. So we might have been like 2 days behind you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. And then how long were you in Atacama?
3 days. And I'm glad you put that on here because San Pedro de Atacama that place blew my mind. Talk about not having expectations. Like I actually was just going there because I could catch a flight from Calama, which is close by, to Santiago to Patagonia, I was about to lead my group trip. This was in 2017. Right. Yeah. So I was basically just going for the airport and thinking, okay, well, we'll kill 3 days here and then we'll go, holy.
You had never been there before?
No. And I didn't even know what to expect. And I am telling you what, Sherry, that little town with its dirt streets, took me back to 18-year-old Jackie traveling. It felt like my roots. It felt like where I started. And I immediately, I was like, this place is I love this place to tears already. And the stars, the Astro Tour, did you do it?
I did that. Yep.
Yes. Okay. I'll let you talk about it. This is your place.
No, it was, you have as much experience there as I do. I mean, it was my first time there too. I had heard about it. And the star watching, the flamingos. Did you go out and see the flamingos in the lake?
No, I have seen flamingos all over Chile, though. And we did go to Mars. We went sandboarding.
Yeah. Oh, well, we didn't go sandboarding. I wanted to, but we ran down sand dunes.
Okay.
Which is,
it's the best sandboarding I've ever.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
In fact, the picture that I have on here was the hike that we were doing in Atacama.
Okay.
We hiked this ridge and then we ran down these sand dunes, which is probably where you might have sandboarded down them. It was gorgeous. I can't remember what it was. There was Moon Valley, and then there was
Valle de la Muerte. Was it Death Valley?
Yes, that's what this picture is.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's where we were too then.
Yeah. Super fun.
Man. You guys go to Northern Chile. Go to this place. It is so cool. And this is a great time to go. It is.
Yeah. A little cooler. Yeah, definitely. And and I put both Argentina and Chile because you've got, San Pedro is kind of a backpacker town, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
And it's gorgeous and it's great.
It's so cool for that. It's charming. It's I loved it for that. Oh, felt like
And then
home.
if you want to get even more remote, then I'd say Northern Argentina, where we went in Salta, this was before the backpacker town get there. It was just as beautiful as the Atacama Desert, without a doubt. But it was still, the miners were there. In fact, the town that we stopped in and stayed had one hostel. And we ended up having to stay. There was one restaurant in the whole little mining village. and they had rooms in the back of the restaurant, like just bedrooms that we stayed in. I mean, this was pre-backpacker time.
Yeah.
Really, you know?
Wow.
And so that I thought was really cool. When you really feel like an explorer there because you are discovering it.
Yep.
So
that's a good way to, and I feel like that might be a good way to do that trip is like if you start on the Chilean side even, and then go into the Argentina side, because if you end near Salta, it's like, it is similar. I mean, it's wine region. There's a whole wine region there, which is fabulous. And you can go to these haciendas and they're like bed and breakfast with vineyards and so you can pamper yourself a little bit at the end if you aren't so into
that. Is, I think.
Yeah.
And I think just experiencing that bus ride, like you said, is incredible. It is a day. It is a full day. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's pretty fun.
Bring your ginger tabs and C-bands, people.
Yeah.
Whoa. And like drink water. And you know what didn't help, Sherry, is that it was closing night the night before.
Well, of course. I know that. Which is why we didn't turn around and get on that bus the day after the concert.
At 7 a.m.? What? I learned.
Yeah, that sounds horrible.
All right, let's move on.
Okay. Did you have any other place for November?
Okay, November. Man. I'm really glad you said northern Chile. I'm just going to second you on that one and we'll move on.
I love it.
Okay.
December, I am finally getting us over to Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Or like traditional Asia. So my December epic trip is actually Cambodia. Mm-hmm. And what makes it epic is most people don't know this, but you can actually run a 5K, 10K, or half marathon through Angkor Wat.
That's super cool. Super cool.
I know.
I might have to do that.
I mean, you would love it. Have you been to Angkor Wat?
I have.
Okay. So you know how crazy it can be.
Yep.
Well, and I mean, a race is also crazy, but it's just, there's something beautiful about like taking off at a race at 5 a.m. and running through these temples. And that's what you do. You're like running through the temples. So and, you know, I hadn't done many races in foreign countries like that. But the other beautiful thing about it was, it was all the locals that were like handing out water. And it was just this, it was all these little Cambodian kids basically handing out water and cheering you on or just like looking at you like, who are these people and what are they doing? It was a really neat race. And it's a good reason if you've never gone to Angkor Wat to go to Angkor Wat. Of course, the race is just one morning. And then you can spend the rest of the time actually, we did the race, we drank beer, and then cleaned up and went and actually, visited the temples more properly. And you don't run through all the temples. As you know, the temple complexes are huge. There's a whole bunch of different ones. Mm-hmm. So this covers, though, a couple of them.
Okay.
I actually ran did I run the 10K or 5K? I can't remember. But my sister ran the half marathon. So, yeah, it's just... It's a very unique way to see a very famous and classic
You're
temple.
Very much speaking my language here. I love using running I guess hiking as well, but like something like this, it's so intriguing. It's so like you feel like you're part of something and
and there's locals running too, and people from all over Asia are coming. Like I learned about it because I used to live in Vietnam. So I did this when I lived in Vietnam. I just came over and ran it. But, I had friends and stuff in Singapore and all over. And people in Vietnam and Singapore were training for it and they were going there. So it was, you've got kind of like all of Asia, also kind of coming in. So it's just such a different feel to it.
Yeah. Very cool.
It's really neat. Now, it's hot in Angkor Wat. It's hot in Cambodia. But December is one of the better months. But this has started really early to try to beat the heat. Mm-hmm. And then of course, Siem Reap there's tons of stuff to do and see there. It's beautiful. from there, I actually went down to Phnom Penh and did some stuff too, or you can go up to Laos or whatever. But this is a cool reason to get over there if you like to do racing or even, you can walk the 5K if you want. It's easy enough.
Yeah.
So, and there's no hills.
Right.
It's pretty flat.
Right. So. And then stay, like, make sure you have a few days there. I would say even just for the temples, because it's so, what's the word? Vast is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like the one you see, like the one that you have here in in the picture, that's the one everybody knows. But the temple complex is massive. And when you buy a ticket, you get usually you get a couple of days or a few days to go through it. And so you could take all that time. And I guarantee this is the cheapest epic you have on this whole guide.
Oh, that's probably true.
Yeah. Cambodia is deliciously cheap still. Affordable. Yeah. Affordable, I should
probably
say.
That and the Camino de Santiago. But this is probably cheaper because of Asia. So yeah.
Good one. I like this one.
Yeah. I would love to go back and run it again. It was really fun.
I'll go with you.
Okay.
We're still filling up our year next year.
I know.
Okay.
December, United States. So this one I chose a classic because it is near and dear to my heart. I used to live there. It's New York City. Mm-hmm. And having lived there for 3 years in the city, to me, my favorite time of year in New York was always December because there is such a holiday spirit there that kind of takes over the city. It changes the city. It kind of softens the city a little bit. And it's fun. There's so much to do. Obviously, you've got all the main things that you can go and see, the Rockefeller Center, the shows, the Rockettes, all that kind of stuff. But it's just a nice time. It's not so hot, obviously. It's a nice time to get around the city and do a Broadway show, do a food tour, do Chinatown, whatever. For me, being a local there, like I said, it was always my favorite time. And it's the time when I told people to come visit. Now, it can also be very busy because of those things. So this is probably out of anything in the book, a place where I'm sending you that is the most normal and probably the most crowded. But if you've never been to New York in December at holiday season, it's worth it. So
cool.
I had to throw that in. And then my last place is my international, and it's really kind of, I guess it's hard to call it a festival, but it's definitely international. It is back to Catalonia, Spain for December. And I put this down. Have you heard of this? I don't know if you've heard of this. The Cagatio?
I don't think so, but that is interesting. Name?
It gets better. So in Catalonia, so that whole region.
Okay, it is what I'm like, I had to read ahead to see if it was what I was thinking, and it is.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Because it's probably Catalan. What does it stand for?
It's it's a bad word. Yeah, it's uncle. Tio is uncle, and then but cagar is to poop, basically.
Poop. Yeah.
So I'm like,
you got the idea.
Okay.
So what makes this so fun is it's just a crazy cultural thing. So like I said, in Catalonia, they do not have a Santa Claus. Santa Claus is not showing up and delivering presents to the kids. The kids there have something better. It's a log that they call cagatio, which you could say much better. But anyway, and it is like the picture. It is an actual log. They put some little legs on it. They put a little face on the end, and they give it the famous Catalan red hat that is traditional in that region. And that is what goes under the Christmas tree. And they put a little blanket on it. And basically, throughout the month of December, I believe, they feed the cagatio like nuts and candies and stuff like that. Basically, the kids leave the candies out by the log at night, and then the candies disappear. And then on Christmas, they feed them the candies and the nuts, and then they wake up the next morning And this is where it gets really weird. Yeah. They have a tradition where they beat the kagatillo with a stick. They literally bang on the log, and they sing a traditional song, which basically is all about telling the kagatillo that they've been good, and they wish for it to poop presents.
This is so weird.
After they sing the song, they pull up the little blanket, and all of the presents are behind it, and basically the kagatillo has pooped presents.
That's so cute.
Instead of coal. If they've been bad, the kagatillo poops coal.
Aww. Oh, it's a cute little kagatillo that you have on your picture. So funny.
It's awesome. It's just, and so if you go to Catalonia, anywhere in Catalonia, which is also Barcelona, in December, you will see kagatillos all over being sold like you would Christmas trees. You will learn about it. I desperately want to pick up my own kagatillo one year.
Do it.
And this is the tradition. And, I learned I can't tell you how many times I had been in Catalonia before I learned about this. And then I was just like, no way, no way happen. And I researched it all. And yes, it does. And now all my friends from Catalonia send me videos of their kids at Christmas time.
Beating the poop out of their kagatillo.
Their log, so it's presents. But the Catalans have a very funny, what do I want to say, history with pooping objects. Because have you heard of the, what's it called? The caganer.
No, I don't think so.
A part of their Christmas festival. Caganers, you've seen them. It started with a traditional Catalan person wearing the traditional red hat and the little outfit sitting on a toilet, basically. And it was a little figurine. And the tradition there is they put a caganer in the nativity scene in their home. And the kids, the fun is the kids have to find the caganer in the nativity scene. And it moves around the month.
Funny.
And that all comes from this idea of pooping and fertility, like in the fields, that's a good thing to have manure in the fields. Yep. There's a lot of history behind it. It's really interesting. Wow. But now Barcelona, if you've ever seen walking through stores in Barcelona, you'll see caganers, but lots of them now have been kind of touristed, and they put famous people on the caganers. So you'll find Angela Merkel, you'll find Trump, you'll find Beatles on a toilet, and a little bit of everything. Man. It's awesome. I went to a caganer factory, and we painted our own, and we learned how they were made and the history of it. It's neat.
Wow. Okay. That's a new one. That's unique.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gotta love the unique animals in the world.
Awesome. Before we get away from December, I'm going to add one more, maybe two more. I can't do December without mentioning Germany, like almost anywhere, but specifically I'm going to say Munich, because the Christmas market tradition in Germany is gorgeous. It's beautiful. And another place that actually comes to mind when talking about Christmas markets is Vienna. But Munich is my favorite one. It's the whole downtown of Munich. It's like one giant cozy cabin. And it's a really fabulous time to go there because it's not as touristy. Really the touristy time is Oktoberfest, but the Christmas market is gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's delicious. There's all this fun food that's like steeped in tradition that you've got to ask people about, like what these things mean as you're ordering them, because there's a reason for everything there. And you can drink Glühwein in the streets, and it's really cozy. Like Munich's is like, when I think of Munich's Christmas market, I think of like wooden coziness. When I think of Vienna, it's the opposite. It's like grander, and like it's like white lights, and like,
perfection.
So, yeah, exactly. So, but that's also a really cool place to go around Christmas time is Vienna. But the other one I'm going to say is Zurich at New Year's, because there's a New Year's marathon that happens at midnight in Zurich. So we're in Switzerland again. That they do there's a 10K option, I think a half and a full marathon. And basically what it is one 10K loop that you can either run once, twice, or 4 times. And it starts at midnight at the new year, at the turn of the new year. And it is so cool. My brother and I did this in the 15 turning to 16 year. So like 4 or 5 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. He came and visited me while I was all over the place, and we went to Zurich and we made ourselves stay up, and we traveled out to this, cause it's like outside of the city a little bit. We took the train out there, and it was headquartered in this gym. Like, it was really cool the way it was set up, because the finish and start line and like lap line was inside of a gym that had doors on either end. So you just like run out of it, and then eventually you come right back into it, you know? And the whole time it was like a giant celebration. We just did the 10K so that it was, you know, as short as possible. It was really cold. Yeah. Like, I don't know, these people doing a marathon at midnight, they're another breed. But it was very exciting. There were bells and fireworks going off the whole time. Everybody's running with their headlamps. Like, it's pitch black, you know? It was such a cool experience. So if you're like, your Angkor Wat thing made me think of that, because I think running events in other countries, that gets me going. I love that. Yeah. It's one of my things though. So yeah, I guess we can.
You can walk those too. I mean, the shorter ones.
Oh, of course you could.
You know, so for people who might not think they can do the run, you can do the walk too.
True. And that one, I do think the shortest distance is a 10K, but I mean, whatever. Yeah. You could do whatever you want. Yeah. Or just come watch. Like, it's cool. And Zurich is a really cute little town, just on the edge of Lake Zurich. And there's an inlet there. And like, it's just, yeah. It's the only time I've been to Zurich was for that New Year's race.
I've never been there. I've been to Geneva, but not Zurich.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess we could end with the New Year celebration, just like that. What a whirlwind of like a world trip. It's amazing how many places you've been, Sherry.
Oh yeah. And I could do like 5 of these books probably.
I know. It's so cool. It's really fun to just jump around the world and like talk about all these fun things that are everywhere, because I know that we all hear about the Eiffel Towers and like the same things over and over. And what I loved the most about this whole conversation is that everything we mentioned, just about everything we mentioned, is off the beaten path. And that is where adventure thrives, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's how I love to travel.
Me too. Yeah. Yep. Yes. Okay. Well, do you have any lasting thoughts about destinations or places or anything?
Oh, wow. There are things I left off of here that I do want to put on eventually, but no, I just say, yeah, open yourself up to these lesser traveled places. I think you're right. It's where the magic happens of travel to me, whether it's pushing yourself in new directions, seeing new things, but also most of these were equally about meeting new cultures and learning. So it's magic when all those things come together. So hopefully if, any of these things just start to pique your interest, take a look at the more detailed descriptions and the read it's, and obviously contact me. And if you have any questions about any of it, it's been fun because I have had a lot of people reach out and ask questions and stuff like that. So I've enjoyed that. It's been a really fun process to put this out.
And, on that note, this is where Sherry found the magic. And I like to say this too, because a lot of times people will ask me specifics, and I opt not to share a specific with them every now and then, because I'll say, you know what, it's something I stumbled upon. It's just where I happen to be because the adventure I chose took me there. your adventure is going to take you somewhere else, and trust the path, because you don't have to have somebody who has gone there before you to tell you everything about it. Like, it's really nice that we can have guides but like Sherry said at the very beginning of this conversation, this is for inspiration. And you guys can find, like, the world is big. You guys can find your adventure in every corner of this planet. It does not have to look like the person next to you or the person before you or the person after you. It's your own, because you're going to find what's going to speak to you. And that's what's going to mean the most to you in the end anyway.
Amen.
So, amen. Mic drop. All right, we're done. Download the guide at ottsworld.com. Sherry, thank you so much. This is so informative, inspiring, just fun, good energy. I've appreciated it so much. So, yeah.
Thank you for letting me go through the whole entire thing. No one has ever let me do that.
I know. Really, well, I mean, I'm good for that. When you get your next set of ideas, you just call me up.
Okay. Done.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thanks again so much to Sherry from ottsworld.com for sharing all of her wonderful insight and knowledge about so many hidden gems across this incredible globe. If you want to share any thoughts or feedback about the last couple of episodes, you can hit us up on Instagram. You can find me at Traveling Jackie, and Sherry is at Ottsworld. That concludes our dose of epic travel inspiration for the day. I hope that you guys enjoyed listening to that as much as we enjoyed recording it for you. So again, the links are in the show notes for you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're all staying well and safe and healthy, and I will see you in the next episode.